be yourself and live happily ever after. You know, my favorite scripture is, be still and know that he is God. And I'll break it down. Be still and know. Just have a knowing. And then be still. You know, we live such busy lives, we don't have the time, or just still, to just be still and listen to God. And then just learn to just be who we uniquely are, that God made us exactly the way he did. So I want to just go through some things that might be helpful about having, you know, learning to love ourselves more. And the 12 steps will do that. The 12 steps is a planned program of action that will take us face to face to the God of our understanding, and along the way we will learn about ourselves, and we'll learn what to, you know, who we really are, and what to keep and what to discard. So the steps, you know, to me is the bottom line. But I want to give you some other ideas. And so I was thinking this morning, about 30 years ago, they had sent a group of Russians over here to spend about 6 months in the United States learning how to treat. They were going to put in one of the first alcohol drug centers in Russia, in Moscow. And so they went and all over to every treatment center, I guess, in the United States, to learn about, you know, these were doctors, psychiatrists, and then the head of the police, I don't know the name, anyway, nurses, just a very, I mean, just a different types of people. There's probably 20 of them, and they had spent all, you know, 6 months in the United States. Codependency was just being talked about, and so I had a friend down in Florida, and her brother was big in the treatment business, and he was one of them that brought this group of Russians to the U.S. So anyway, we were invited, my friend Barbara and I were invited to go to Florida and be the last ones to work with this group of Russians. So we put them through an intensive. Now, they had not done any of their own work. They had done, you know, been fact gathering. They'd been gathering facts. They'd been educated. And they did not know what had hit them when they came to an intensive. And they didn't speak English, and we didn't speak Russian. We had an interpreter. They could speak a little broken English, you know, but not a lot. And so we did an intensive like we do, and each one, you know, we had them to do the life map. We had them to do everything. And there's this one woman in there, and when we got to her, everyone in the group started doing all this. Anyway, what they were trying to tell us was that she was a bulimic, because they went, ooh, 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 yeah. And so we started working with that young woman, and she had been very ill with an eating disorder and had barely made it through those 6 months and had not told anybody, but people that, you know, they had been living in close quarters, and people were beginning to know, those that she was traveling with, that she had something bad wrong. And so we diagnosed her with bulimia, and she stayed and did some treatment. But anyway, at the end of that 6 day, it was 6 day, what I wanted to share with you is what she shared at the end of that 6th day was, I think, was just the sweetest thing. She said through that week that she had taken a liking to herself. She had taken a liking to herself. And I think that's what we all need to do. That's what self-love is about, is taking a liking to ourselves, to learn to like ourselves and love ourselves. And we may not always like our behavior, but, you know, it's important, I think, that we begin to love ourselves and quit putting ourselves down. You know, our addicts particularly, we are famous for putting ourselves way up on a pedestal and thinking we're all of that and something else, or putting ourselves down in the gutter and thinking we're the worst of the worst. And usually the percentage is higher for those in the gutter. You know, we may not look in the gutter, but in our mind of how we feel about ourselves, a lot of times we are. So we're going to talk about this morning about some ways to learn to better love yourself and to how to be yourself. Just learn to be who you are and accept yourself. You know, don't let the media tell you who you are, you know, even social media, particularly young people, and not only young people, I mean, any of us could, you know, let social media dictate how we feel about ourselves. Many years ago, we were treating a family, and they had a teenage daughter that was in there. She was about 17, and she had come to support, Family Week for one of her family members. And she broke down and started crying during Family Week. And what it was is that she would get on social media, and I guess teenagers do this, and she would count how many likes she got or whatever those are, you know, when she put something, if people, you know, if they liked her, and that morning she didn't get very many, and she broke down and was crying and that nobody liked her and all. Now that is giving power to something outside ourselves. And that young girl did come back and do an intensive, and she, you know, and her family had no idea how bad she felt about herself. So don't let social media, regardless of what age you are, dictate who you are or who you should be. Don't should on yourselves. You know, I should have done this, I should have done that. Well, why not, you know? And when we're saying that, that's living in the past. I should have, you know. So don't should on yourself. And then another thing is to learn to live in the moment. Now, right now, N-O-W, now is the moment of power. If I say that when I'm working with clients, if I say that once, I usually say it 15 or 20 times during a course of an intensive or something. Because what I see with people, how we really put ourselves down, is we get way over in the future and fear of the future and thinking that we're not going to be able to do this or not that, you know, or we get in the past and get guilty. And when we do that, you know, we're not thinking very highly of ourselves. And so now is the moment of power. And if we can get people, you know, as clinicians, if we can get people to get back into the moment, to right now, and I'll ask people, you know, is right now a life or death matter? I mean, if it's, you know, if it's a life or death matter, take action. If not, you know, like if the house is burning down, get out, you know. But there's very few life or death situations in the very moment. So it's about now. Right now is when you have the power. You know, and that power does come from God. Now is the moment of power. And so, third thing is, I don't think we can feel good about ourselves without a little bit of gratitude. And my friend Bonnie there, she talks about writing that gratitude list every day. And, you know, that's one of the first things that most good sponsors will do, is have people write a gratitude list. Start out writing 5 things every day that you're grateful for. And for newcomers, sometimes that's hard for them to think of one thing, you know, and I will tell them, you know, when I sponsor people, I'll say, you know, write 5 things that you're grateful for, and put God at the top, and then yourself, you know, put yourself up there, that you're grateful to even be breathing in and out. So, gratitude, make those gratitude lists. And then number 4, you know, this does seep over into codependency, but it is important that we embrace the fact that we cannot control anything. You know, we can't control everything. We can't control anything, really. you know, yes, we're responsible for ourselves. You know, like we say, get yourself, draw a circle around yourself, or like Jackie did for a long time, wear a hula hoop. You know, if you want to know who you need to learn to love and respect and take care of, go to the toy store, go to Walmart, don't get lost there, but go to Walmart and buy your hula hoop. Wear that around the house and stay inside that, and not in a selfish way. It's not about being selfish. It's about thinking of self less. You know, when we're selfish, we're thinking only about how bad, awful, and wrong everything is, and poor is me, and woe is me. But having good feelings about ourselves is learning to love ourselves. And one of the things is to embrace the fact that we can't control everything. It's not so many things that are not any of our business. And if we can let life happen, instead of trying to make everything happen, you know, and to learn to go with the flow. I'll tell you, addicts, when we're not in recovery, we're not very flow goers, you know, we don't go with the flow very often, you know, to where we, you know, just kind of take things as they come. No, when we really don't think much about ourselves, we also, what we do is we take everything that comes our way so personal. We take it personal. Now, this is about setting healthy boundaries. You know, when we take everything personal that somebody says or that somebody does, you know, bottom line, it's not any of your business, you know, really. But it's about not taking things so personal. And then the fifth thing is, well, I've touched on this a little bit, but don't let your past define you. I remember when I first started, I mean, I lost weight 120, 130, 140 pounds anyway, 5 different times, and I'd gain it back. So I always was in that ebb and flow of weight, you know, weight and body size and all. So if I was, you know, not within a normal weight range, but I wasn't up at my highest point, I would always, if anyone said anything, I'd always make a point to say, well, I used to weigh 287 pounds, you know, so what I meant by that, cut me some slack, you know, I'm not what I used to be, but I'd always bring that up. I defined myself, and I just now did it again, but I would define myself by how bad I was, you know, how bad, awful, and wrong I had been, and, you know, I would define myself by my past. And at some point, we've got to get out of our past. It doesn't mean that we want to forget it, because to forget it, we'll go back to it. I don't want to forget my past, you know, but we have to, or I had to, I don't know what you have to do, but I had to do a lot of hard work on my past. And when there's any kind of childhood abuse, particularly sexual abuse, it takes what it takes, and sometimes it takes a long time. Took me about 10 or 12 years to completely get through. It doesn't mean that I spent every second of every day working on the past. I didn't, on the abuse. I would go do treatment, or a 5-day, a 6-day, an 8-day, whatever it took. And then I was told to go celebrate, you know, live life and celebrate this freedom that you have right now. When the pain comes back, go back and do more work. That's how I was taught, to just keep peeling off those layers. But don't live in it, and we don't need to define ourselves as our past. We need to embrace the past, need to learn from it, and or we will be doomed to repeat it. So, and then embrace your virtues and your flaws. You know, what I'd recommend is make a list of all of your virtues. Have you ever done that? Have you ever written down all the good things? And, you know, really, and you don't have to show it to anybody if you don't want to, but write down all of the good things about you. Don't be embarrassed, because if no one's going to look at it but you, just put all those virtues, all those good things about yourself. Y'all are not even smiling. Smile. Write down, make a list of your virtues, things that you really like about yourself. And I know every one of you on this that I'm watching, and I know every one of you have wonderful virtues. And how much do you embrace your virtues? And okay, I'm going to have you make another list about your flaws. What are your flaws? What are those things that you just do not like about yourself? And you see that, well, there it comes again, there it comes again. I'll promise you, you probably focus more on your flaws than you do your virtues. And what, I want to say is embrace both sides of them. And, we all have a dark side. Do y'all know that? We all have a dark side. And if people could really see inside our brains, would you like for somebody to see every thought that you think every day? Would you? I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I walked by my meditation books. Now I'm just being honest. Yesterday morning I walked by my meditation books and I thought, I don't want to do that right now. And I just kept walking. Now, I don't tell that to everybody. I did go back later and read them, but it's like, I don't want to do that now. Now, that's just kind of that kid, I don't want to do that, but I did do it later. So anyway, but we all have a dark side. And if you had any kind of childhood abuse at all, I want you to listen to this. Your dark side that you're carrying is not your dark side. It's someone else's. And then if you have lived a life in darkness, if you don't embrace that, you're going to continue to live in it. You embrace the dark side and learn from it so you can let it go. Learn from that dark side. So I kind of beat that one to death. And then, number 7, this is a big one. Don't worry about what other people think about you. If you're worrying about what other people think about you, if you knew how little they think of you at all, or, you would be surprised. We think people are sitting around thinking about us. They're not. I'm here to tell you. They're thinking about what we're thinking about them. Or they're thinking about themselves, or what their life is, or what they're, So don't worry about what other people think about you, because it's really none of our business what they think about us. And we give so much of our power away to other people, what they think about us. And this is where boundaries come in. Boundaries. So, number 8 is be confident in who you are. Have confidence in yourself. And when you have confidence in yourself, it doesn't mean that you're all of that and something else. It means that you embrace that you have certain skills, or that you're confident in who you are. And I will tell you, who you are is a child of God. I mean, that's who we all are. And you've heard this, when we're putting ourselves down, we're putting down God's handiwork. And if you can stop, or we can stop long enough and think, to be confident about ourselves and the qualities that we do have, And this comes under where affirmations help. I just try to encourage people to do affirmations. Have any of you done the exercise of writing 50 simple affirmations? I've given it thousands of times. The assignment, 50 short affirmations, very positive. and looking in the mirror, the dark part of your eye, 5 times a day, and read those affirmations to yourself. Do it for 2 weeks and see what happens. Have any of you done that? Raise your hands if you've done that. Did you see any results at all? Any results? Everybody's shaking their heads. And what I would recommend, if you do that, this brain's like a computer, and then it's going to become automatic. But I would encourage you to continue to do that. And after, like I said, after a while, that brain's going to pick it up. And I would recommend after 2 weeks, dropping back to maybe once a day. But keep saying them and keep saying them and put them in the present tense, whether you believe it or not. If you can get it up out of your brain, if you can put it on paper, see, it's already in there. I mean, if you can dream it, it's already in there. And so if you keep saying it to yourself and then taking action, your life's going to be different. I'm a firm believer in affirmations. They help me as much as anything. And then number 9 is appreciate yourself. How much do you really appreciate yourself? Some of you, and I know every one of you on this screen, some of you have come through horrendous battles. Some of you are in the midst of the battles right now, battling addiction of any sort. That's a battle. That's a battle. But we don't have to do it alone. We do not have to do it alone. And this is one thing you're doing. You're sitting here listening to me, and most of you get on here every Wednesday. That is appreciating yourself enough to do something for yourself that might be helpful. But appreciate yourself, and that's, that goes along with affirming yourself, the affirmations. But and then, thank God daily for yourself, and spend time, like I just keep saying, spend time, thinking about your best friend. I've had lots and lots of good friends, and some of them are right here on the screen. And there's no way in the world that I would put any of you down. There's no way in the world that I would gossip about any of you. There's no way in the world that I would call somebody up and tell somebody how awful Bonnie is, or how bad Charles is, or John, or Cora, or any of you, or Jackie, or Val, any of you, Sarah. There's no way that I would call or even say it to myself how bad y'all are. But you know what? We say those things to ourselves all the time. Do we? Do y'all say bad things to yourself? Do you put yourselves down? And this is where it's going to be, we really need, there's, a difference between being self-centered, all wrapped up in ourselves, and thinking of self-less and learning to love ourselves. And putting ourselves down, when you start thinking about putting yourself down, think about your best friend. Would you put your best friend down? I hate to tell y'all, and I'm not putting myself down, it's a fact of the calendar, I am 78 years old, and my skin shows it and all of that, and when, every time I look down, I think, well, bless your heart, you just getting those age spots everywhere, and what I do is I bless my heart, but I've lived long enough to have age spots. I had wanted to kill myself and had many serious suicide attempts. And so today, Lord God Almighty, I'm a survivor. I have survived, y'all have survived. So why would we want to put down the very person that has got us where we are today? And that is God and ourselves, and in the program, at least one other human being. So don't put yourselves down, because when you're putting yourself down, you're putting a friend down, so stop doing that. And then number 10 is forgive yourself. Let yourself off the hook. there's things in my life, I used to be such a rager, and I'll tell you what, I know the difference. I am not a rager. It's been 20 years since I stood out there in the road in front of my business and raged and had a horrible, made a scene. I mean, it's horrible in front of all my employees and clients. And I was so embarrassed by myself. I had done that all of my life. I'd had that anger build up, and then I would blow up. My friend Christopher there understands that, don't you, Christopher? Having that build up, and then the huge blow up. Well, after I would have a rage attack, I felt better. And then I wanted everybody to get up. Okay, now let's go play and have fun. Well, they wasn't willing to. I mean, at that point, if you want to get people out of your life, be a rager. And so I had to forgive myself for a lot of those times, and I've had to go back and make amends to former clients, and have had to go back and make amends to former employees for my rage. I picked up my dad's rage. Now, I never murdered anyone. I never cut anybody's throat. I wanted to, but I would think, I'll just go to prison. My kids will be orphans. But I had that kind of rage like my dad did. And I'll tell you, I could not stop it on my own. But God removed that from my brain. I guess I can get angry. I wasn't angry, just got a little aggravated yesterday standing in Lowe's line. I had some dead flowers I was returning. I like that about Lowe's. Do you know if you buy flowers at Lowe's, you can return them for 1 year? That's why I don't mind buying flowers, because if they die, and I know how to raise flowers. I mean, my garden proves it, but sometimes flowers die and I take them back and they give you a full refund. So I had taken these flowers back, and I stood and I waited and I waited. We waited probably 30 minutes, and 2 employees were waiting on 1 customer. So I learned a lesson on patience, and I started singing that song, be patient, don't worry, no, whatever. Anyway. But I was just about to the point that I wanted to say something ugly, but I wasn't going to. For one thing, Misty was standing there. She was my conscience at the aisle. I wouldn't have raged. I wouldn't have said anything. But I did get a little irritated. I just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And so when I got up there, I took back a lot of flowers. And so she looked at the list, and there was a lot of money. And the manager came over and looked, and I had circled all that I was bringing back, and I had bought over $1,000 worth, and I'd circled the ones I was bringing back. I got over $400 back on those dead plants. Now, in the past, when I was a rager, I would have gotten mad because I had to wait, and I would have cussed them out. I would have made a scene. And I would have been so embarrassed, I could never go back into Lowe's to buy flowers because I thought they were all looking at me. So I don't have to do that today. God removed that from my brain, that rage, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for that money that I got back on those flowers. And it took some effort to put them, gather them up, put them in plastic bags, label them and all that. But anyway, I'm over $400 richer because of that. And I'm also richer because I felt good about myself when I walked out of there, that I didn't have to be ugly and mistreat those salespeople. They were just doing a job, and they were doing it thorough, and they were waiting on a customer. And then when it was my turn, they gave me the same attention. So the last thing is number 11, is get in touch with your inner child. If you really want to know who you, and I saw Taylor there flip that ponytail when she said her inner child. Maybe she was flipping the ponytail anyway, but get in touch with your inner child. That little kid on the inside of each of us, that kid remembers. The kid remembers how to play. The kid remembers joy. And you know, if you can get in touch with your inner child and then find somebody to play with, I mean, go have fun with and laugh. You know, yesterday, y'all know that Misty's father passed away 2 weeks ago Monday, and the whole neighborhood has just had just a fog of depression over the whole neighborhood. It was sad losing my friend Doug, and for Misty losing her father, and Rose losing her husband, and there hadn't been much to laugh about. And so yesterday we were gone 10 hours. And we laughed all day except at Lowe's. I wasn't laughing because I had to wait in line. But anyway, we laughed and we laughed and we laughed and we laughed. Laughter is healing. Find someone. You can laugh by yourself, but it's more fun to share it with someone. So find somebody. I call them a running buddy. Find somebody that you can just, you know, get together and be silly with and let your inner child out and learn to laugh and have fun, because, you know, at the end of the day, life is it is too short not to. Life is too short not to have some fun and some laughter sprinkled into every day. Turn any disaster that you might have, and you know, there's been hard things that's happened this last 2 years, and you know, and it doesn't look like it's getting a whole lot better. I mean, you know, I'm talking about the pandemic. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But still, there's things to laugh about. There's joy in the air if we find it and are willing to breathe it in. So that's what I have on learning to love yourself. And you know, and like my little Russian friend, I will close with, I hope each of you start taking a liking to yourselves. Take a liking to yourselves. Okay, so here's another thing that was on my calendar. It says, every person you meet is a blessing or a lesson. What are you going to be today? Are you going to be a blessing to someone, or a lesson that, oh, boy, I don't ever want to be like that? All right, so let's open it up. Who wants to share?